Yes, people, welcome back to the Magpie Channel TV. I thought I'd give it a day or so to get over that disappointing draw against Spurs. But Burnley this weekend, we've got to get back to winning ways. We'll be previewing that game after Eddie Howe's press conference tomorrow morning. Today, we're going to talk about just how important 2026 could be for Eddie Howe and the Mags, and how we are finally heading into a transfer window with some strength and some power players at hand. Obviously the Isaac money there, which we spent a bit of it on Voldemort and stuff. But of course now Howe being backed by a sporting director and a CEO, Hopkinson and Wilson both in charge there now. So that should help us going forward. Obviously last summer was a bit of a shambles, a bit of a mess, Eddie's nephew Andy involved in loads of discussions and all that. So people are back in positions now, and he's got more help and power at his disposal. More money, more importantly. But what we're going to talk about is the possible ins and outs. In January, I've sourced quite a few articles. I'm going to focus on one from The Athletic. But there was also a bit about Conor Gallagher. Still in the race for the Atletico Madrid midfielder. Eddie Howe's a long-term admirer of him, and they did try and have a little talk with Simeone about the possibility of signing the Englishman last summer, but they didn't want to let him go. Now they are accepting bids of around 30 million euros. So not bad for a player with a lot of Premier League experience, and Gallagher wants that move back to England to get himself in Thomas Tuchel's thoughts for the World Cup in the summer. On this one, I'm a bit torn. I'm like, yeah, he's a good player. Yeah, he would help us. Great. But on another side, I'm like, we need more ball-playing midfielders. We need more technical players. Players that can create and make things happen more than that, dogged type of midfielder that Gallagher is. I do like him. I wouldn't be against the signing, but I just think Shu would be looking elsewhere. And I've said on the podcast and stuff, maybe that six, maybe that the tackling type player. But now when you watch us play, you just think we are crying out for someone, as we've been saying for years, like a 10, which we don't play, but someone who can get between the lines, make something happen, grab an assist. Bruno kind of did that off the bench the other night, with grabbing a goal as well. Now you've got young Louis May there trying to break through after a very good performance against Everton. He played the other night against Spurs, not as good unfortunately. But you've got a bit of a midfield tug-of-war there. You've got Joe Willock, who's been linked with a move away once again. Crystal Palace wanting to sign him in January, which seems a bit strange considering Eddie Howe seems to be favouring Joe Willock over £40-odd million signing Jacob Ramsey. Like when Willock started last week against Marseille, which to be honest was his first good game in years. But I would definitely cash in on Joe Willock. Dropping down the pecking order in midfield. If a Palace want him, then let him go. 26. So he's coming into some good years there, really. That's how young he joined Newcastle now, a good few years ago under Ashley. But he's just never been able to stay fit, never been able to get consistent. He's had some great games, but a lot of games where he's gone missing. But his contract also expires in 27, so if you want any money from it all, it's going to have to be in 2026, where we do let him go. Tell you what, before we get into some more transfer news and what could be happening going forward for Newcastle in the winter window, you can get involved in a pre-Derby Day social event at the George Stephenson and then on the way to Fleet Street. All the details are on your screen there now. And if you want a chance to win tickets, head over to George Stephenson's Instagram and Facebook, and you can get in the comments there for a giveaway for these tickets. But sure to be a cracking event the day before the Derby Day. Let's get involved. Let's get built up to the big game. Sink a few pints with some Toon legends and hear their experiences of Derby Day and what they anticipate to happen in Sunday's big fixture next weekend against the Mackem. Should be a feisty one, but on the Saturday, 13th of December, we'll be doing that event. So if you want to get tickets for that, you can hit the link below, and like I say, you can go on their socials to enter the giveaway for tickets as well. Also, the hats are flying out on the magpiechannel.com. I dropped some off to people in person yesterday, so shout out all you lot, and I sent loads of them out yesterday. And I am also doing a giveaway for the members of the channel. So the link will be in the description if you want to join the channel. A couple of quid, and then we'll do giveaways all the time. This Christmas, we're doing the hats giveaway. So if you fancy that, click the link below as well, or go to magpiechannel.com to get yourselves one. Now that we've got all that sort of stuff out of the way, let's get back to the topic at hand. And like I said, been loads of stuff coming out the last couple of days because we're only a couple of weeks away pretty much from the January transfer window. I'm sure how we'll be getting more questions tomorrow about the window, about meetings taking place that he said in his last press conference would be happening this week regarding budget, negotiations and planning for next month. I said at the start of the video, he's got Ross Wilson there now, sporting director. He's got David Hopkinson, new CEO. So the dynamics of this winter window are waiting to be seen, how it will play out, how involved will Ross Wilson be, who will be leading the negotiations, like I mentioned Andy Howie's nephew was in the summer. You'd obviously expect Wilson to step in there, but who's going to get final say? Who's going to be really stamping their authority on the window? I mean, for me, it's probably going to be Eddie Howe, isn't it? You know, he's got that credit in the bank there, but albeit saying that, you do have to say so far. In the summer, the 100 million that was spent on Elanga and Ramsey has been an absolute waste of money so far. I want to give them time. You know, I want to give us time on it. Elanga, yes, it hasn't been great. Everton again, he looked better. Midweek, not so much like everyone else, but I want to give them time before I give full judgment. I know Ramsey picked up an injury when he came to the club, so I'm worried though why he's not getting in ahead of Willock and others. That does kind of scare us in terms of his price tag. You think he'd be good enough to be getting more minutes on the pitch, but anyhow, you know, and Eddie Howe and the signs they've made before, we mentioned the summer ones that didn't go well there. The summer ones like Volta definitely has. The ones in the past, you know, we can big list of them from the likes of Steve Nixon, head scout, and others who've been involved. There's obviously Bruno, your Tonali's, Isaac. These players were quality finds, Tino and Hall. So Howe will surely have last say once again, and Wilson will be there giving them a helping hand in negotiations and finding targets as such. What positions will Newcastle be looking at in 2026 then? These state here, the Athletic, that it will be a fullback, midfield and goalkeeper. But we are covering options across the entire pitch because we will be waiting to see how the squad's doing next month, if there's any injuries or whatnot, and where they think needs strengthening. But as it stands, Newcastle will be focusing on fullback cover, mainly left back, you'd assume, because we normally have Trippier and Kraft, but they're both injured at right back at the minute. With Dan Burn having to start in at left back, you've only got Lewis Hall there, Matty Toggett's on loan to Borough. That's something they're going to look at, as well as midfield. Now, midfield, as we mentioned before, is a very sought after area where things need to change and need freshened up. So I mentioned Gallagher was talked about before, but obviously the young Dutchman Key Schmidt has been mentioned as well. We'll discuss him in a minute. Now, Newcastle do have many long-term targets that they might try and pull the trigger on in January if the opportunity arises. A bit like it did with Anthony Gordon back in 2023. Looking a bit past January, apparently when it comes to the summer, we are going to really revamp the goalkeeping department, as that is a critical concern by those at the club. James Trafford has been heavily linked once again to the Toon in the January window, if it isn't next summer, but Trafford wants to get away from Man City already, because when he signed for them again, he was guaranteed first team choice, first goalkeeper, the number one, but then Donnarumma signed 2 weeks later, and Donnarumma has started every single Premier League game. Now Trafford needs game time, he wants game time ahead of that World Cup next summer as well. So he is once again on Newcastle's list, where maybe they could get him on loan and then look to buy in the summer, or just take them off Man City's hands completely. I think that is one we have to do. I mean, bloody hell, I've been sitting here for the last 4 windows saying Trafford. Didn't happen last summer again for those reasons, but with no Pope, the mistakes he's made. But then again, Ramsdale, we never said he was exactly the answer, which was proven against Spurs, but he was just better with his feet and whatnot. So yeah, I think Trafford is the answer, hopefully, all around, that young, exciting goalkeeper that we've been targeting for seasons and seasons now. So let's hopefully get him through the door in January and see what he's made of. The expectation is that at least one young forward will arrive across the course of the next year, and there'll be incomings and outgoings in midfield. We are also targeting a young centre-back or two, and replacing one of the wingers is not out of the question. So again, there could be a huge reshuffle in the side, and we actually have the ability to do that now with a bit of PSR headroom from the Isaac sale, and also the likes of Ross Wilson, a bit of a steadier and friendlier, to Eddie Howe at least, sporting director in place. Key Schmidt then, the AZ Alkmaar midfielder, is greatly admired, but we are in stiff competition with Europe's top clubs to sign the 19-year-old. We tried last summer, it didn't happen. They were adamant he wasn't for sale, but the Dutch 21-year-old has continued to be watched by Newcastle this season, and they recognise that it will be a challenge though to lure him to Tyneside. But an aggressive mid-season bid is believed to represent their best chance of pulling off the signature. So will we go in this January, Town Alkmaar mid-season, and try and get Schmidt to sign before next summer, when more clubs will be vying for the lad to sign? We'll wait and see. Also, Monaco's Lamine Camara, Valencia's Javi Guerra, and Leicester's Bilal El Khanous have also previously featured during internal conversation. They talk about Trafford here, as he wants to go, and Dortmund's Kobel, once again the keeper being linked there. Let's get on to the strikers now then. And this is a name we talk about and I talk about quite excitingly in the summer with Samu from Porto, the 21-year-old striker. We really like him behind the scenes. The club are big admirers of him. He's seen him as a very exciting prospect, but it's the price tag that may prove prohibitive. So this is a worry because, I mean, imagine Samu rotating with Voltemada and Wissa being involved as well, whether that's rotation or, you know, we know Voltemada and Wissa can play different positions, so then Samu could force himself as the main man. I mean, having 3 strikers of that calibre would be game-changing for us, so maybe we would go for it, depending on what the fee is. I mean, we're getting quoted like 80 million in the summer, so you can forget that straight away. But if you could get it down to 40, 50 during the season there, price might drop, there might be more, things are wide open on this one, but reports, once again, over the last few days and in this article, are saying that Newcastle would love to sign Samu as a striker, as a young striker, to replace the outgoing William Osula. Before we get into Osula there, we do talk about Strand Larsen once again, as we know we had 2 bids rejected for him, but with them certain for relegation, maybe they will be likely for a sale, although a move for him again makes it less likely with the money we spent on Wissa. Strand Larsen, his profile hasn't done well this season. Neither have Wolves, mind, so it doesn't help, but yeah, I just think that one's probably sailed now. And I'd much rather go for someone more young and exciting in Samu. So on to William Osula, and the 22-year-old has apparently reached a verbal agreement with Frankfurt, but the 2 clubs have not agreed on a fee. There's various reports coming out from Sky and others saying that it could be a 20 million fee after a few £1 is paid in January for a loan fee until the end of the season. Newcastle might be holding out for that 25 to 30 million pound solid fee that we had agreed upon on deadline day, but then we pulled the plug because Wissa nearly didn't happen. But it looks like Osula is set for Germany. It looks like Frankfurt are still wanting to sign him despite his current ankle injury as well. And it looks like Osula wants to go because he wants guaranteed first team football. But he won't leave once again in January unless we do sign a young forward replacement. If it was Samu, it would be sensational. But we don't know if that's going to be the case. But the deal's there on the table. It's just whether Newcastle can get a replacement for Osula in the doors this January. Who else could be leaving in January then? This one isn't very good. Sven Botman. They're saying here if a deal cannot be negotiated with him, but we are hopeful it can, then the Dutchman might be sold rather than to be allowed to enter his final 12 months. Hopefully he does sign, but he's injured again at the minute, isn't he, with a back problem. So it would depend on the fee. I mean, I wouldn't want to see Botman go. I think we've seen how good he is now, that he had a run of games. Like I just said, big shame he's took an injury again, but hopefully it's not too serious and rules him out for too long. But if someone came with a silly offer when he got 12 months left, which is probably unlikely because why would anyone do that when they've only got a year to go? But like the Gallagher situation, it could be touch and go really, where we nearly went to Liverpool and they were demanding too much money, Palace and all the rest of it. But yeah, Botman there linked with a move if he doesn't sign a new deal quick. So then you get that sorted. Kraft is in the last year of his deal, 31-year-old now. He could leave in January with Copenhagen interested. We talked about that on a video a few weeks back. We've already discussed Willock in this one. And Tonali and Livramento are seen as key players that we must keep a hold of. But they can't be ruled out of leaving if a significant offer came in because of the huge PSR benefits and then what that would do in our ability to refresh a large chunk of the squad. I've said it before, but I'll be surprised if them two, especially Tonali. Even Tino, now the attention he's getting with the World Cup happening soon and Man City being linked once more, these 2 players are going to be very hard to keep a hold of. But if it's a big money offer, it is. I'm over it now as much. Isak was a huge blow in the summer, but it's look at what we've done since. He's doing crap. Voltemada looks great. You do have to trade players, not get too attached to them, and just sell them if a big money offer comes in. And then hopefully we do another good job of replacing them. Newcastle have 6 senior players, contracts that are expiring next summer. Lascelles, Trippier and Fabian Schär. Lascelles looks likely to leave, given he's only made 2 appearances this season. He's left out the Champions League squad. Trippier, 35, looks like his Newcastle career is coming to a natural conclusion. So there was talks that we would offer him a new deal, but they're saying here that it could be coming to an end. Decision over Shaw is yet to be made as well. He's obviously been overtaken now by Malik Chow. And at 33, it could be that Newcastle try and move on for a younger replacement next summer. So Newcastle and Eddie Howe have come under criticism in the past for not moving players on. Your Wilsons, your Longstaffs and whatnot. maybe a shift is now changing with Wilson and Hopkinson coming into the club. John Ruddy and Gillespie, who has never appeared under Eddie Howe, may leave depending on incomings. So there we go, that goalkeeper department could get reshuffled next summer. No sales are required, thankfully, for Newcastle in January though, because of the PSR headroom that was lifted with the Isaac transfer. But there is still limitations on what Newcastle can spend, especially on wages, with their disciplined salary structure still significantly lower than the so-called Big Six average. Having invested an initial $241 million in the summer just gone there on 5 permanent signings, Newcastle have already committed a portion of their PSR space, which is changing to SCR soon, which doesn't really make a difference. 1 or 2 additions are possible in January, but multiple incomings are expected to be held off until the summer, when upwards of $100 million might be spent. So yeah, it's always the same in January. You're not going to... Well, then again, obviously, when we're in deep trouble and we're saying 5 or 6 players, normally it could be just 1 or 2 in January, which I'll be happy with, to be honest with you. I'll be happy with that. Just to freshen up the squad a little bit during the season, especially if we're on all competitions still. But there we go, that'll do for this video. Let's have it in the comments what you think of all the things I've mentioned in it. Remember, if you fancy getting yourself a hat, themagpiechannel.com, or become a member and you might win one as part of our Christmas giveaway. And also for the Derby Day weekend special at Fleet Street and George Stephenson, you can get your tickets for that in the description below as well. Thanks for watching everyone, subscribe to Magpie Channel TV and enjoy yourself.